Okay, so for this lesson, I'm really excited to start talking about working with audio inside of Adobe Premiere. We're going to try to go through as much of audio as we can inside of Adobe without having to go into Audition, which is another program. So let's take a look at this sequence that we have right here. And we have some natural sound here happening in the background. And then we have the sound from the interviews.
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach yoga and a friend.
Now we're going to look at these interviews here, and I want to bring up an important issue with doing these interviews when we recorded them. So I'm going to go here to this clip of Virginia. Now I see this clip of Virginia here. I can zoom in a little bit.
I was approached by Mike Cleary.
I can go to the clip of Mai here and see that here. If I ever want to go back to the clip of Mai, for example, and I don't know where this clip of Mai is, I can actually hit the F key. I could also go into the interviews bin and find the clip of Maya here, but if I ever want to, I can also just hit the F key, and the F key is a key called match frame. So for example, I'm on this frame of Maya's face looking like this right here. If I hit the F key, that will actually jump me to the original source clip of Maya, and it actually shows me the in and out points that were there on the clip. This is the part of the clip that's being used, etc. So if I ever want to jump to Virginia, I can jump to Virginia. Here's Virginia's face, and it actually matches me to the exact same frame. So I'm going to hit the F key, boom, jumps me back to the exact same frame. And here's Virginia, for example, in
I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of...
Now, if you look at the audio levels, I want to show you that when this plays, the audio levels are over here.
About a year ago, and there was this big phenomenon in the West Coast.
And you might notice the audio levels are doing two things here. The left side, which is called channel 1, and the right side, which is called channel 2. So the left and right side are playing two different audio tracks. Well, let me talk to you a little bit about how this was shot or how this was produced. There was a lavalier microphone on Virginia, and so she had a lavalier microphone clipped onto her, and that was recording one channel of the audio. The other channel was the microphone that was on the camera, was physically on the camera. That was recording the audio that was coming out of the camera, maybe 4 or 5 feet away from her, which is a different sound of audio. So if I go here and I play back Virginia, and I were to solo channel 1, I could the solo clip channel 1, the left channel here.
I've been teaching yoga here with the student interns, so she thought...
So here's an issue. If I play back channel 2, you might notice that channel 2
yoga
sounds
teacher,
cleaner.
Goats, why not try it? So we start.
So here's the issue. Channel 1 was the on-camera recording, which was picking up Virginia, but also picking up all the background sound, all the goats in the distance, the wind, the birds, the crickets, whatever it may be. It's picking up all the environmental sounds there. Well, the good sounds coming from the lavalier microphone are picking up, a little bit of the wind and a little bit of the outside sounds, but it's mostly picking up Virginia. So let's see if we can focus on that. Now, that's going to be a little bit tricky. If we go back to the original source interviews, and we looked at Virginia here, and we found Virginia here, in Virginia, you can actually go to Virginia and right-click. And under the option to modify audio channels, you'll see the way that this is recorded and the way this comes into Premiere is it comes in this way. It says, hey, there was some source information from the actual camera recording, and that had a left and a right channel, which we'll call channel 1 and 2. Well, on the clip, and that's the clip as it's seen inside of Adobe Premiere. So the way that Adobe Premiere thinks about it is it says, oh, well, the left of the original source recording goes to the clip's left channel, and the source on the right goes to the clip's right channel. This is the way this is broken out. This is the way this is organized in kind of this fashion. And this is a stereo clip, so it was a stereo source information. It says the clip channel format was a stereo source information, and it's going to a stereo clip here like so. Well, we don't want the left information from the source going to the left channel because it's playing this back in stereo, and it's playing the left side, playing back into the on-camera microphone, and the right side playing back the lavalier. Well, what if we were to switch this to have the right source information playing on both the left and right channel of the clip? So now we're feeding the source video, the audio from the source video, source audio, I guess, from that to the clip here to both the left and right channels. When I do that now, and you'll notice down here the waveform will be here, and the waveform may be a little bit different. If I switch this and say okay, you'll see, oh, the waveform changed a little bit down here, and it's now just using the right channel. So now both channels, the left and the right, are being fed from the lavalier, which was the channel 2 on
I was
the camera.
approached by Mike Cleary, the president of...
Much cleaner, much nicer.
I was
overall,
approached by...
happier with that as an idea. And so that's a thing we can do. Well, let's do this with all the channels. If we can assume that all the interviews here that we used, so we used Virginia, we used Fiona, well, let's just say all these interviews here. I don't know what we used, but let's say all these interviews here. We're going to right-click, modify audio channels, and switch to them all being on the right channel. And you might notice that here, these other interviews will all switch. The audio cleaned out. And now Virginia and Mai as well.
Who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
It was a little clean. You'll see some different levels here, but that's because I was playing
yoga.
from before, which I think I can fix really easily by going to the track mixer, Windows Audio Track Mixer, and I can probably mono this out because this is offset. So let's just set this to 0. We can talk about that a little bit later, but now you'll see that the same levels
by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach yoga and
on both these channels here. So we'll leave that alone for a second. We're going to close it out because I probably shouldn't have been doing that, but we have that here. Okay, so let's play a little bit more. So what we're going to concern ourselves with is the idea of trying to make sure the audio is good. And the audio levels are good. They're clean now because it's using the lavalier microphones. And again, these B-roll shots that have some natural sound. Here's some goats in the background in the distance, people yelling, yoga instructions. Some goats, etc. That's perfectly fine. That can be stereo. So that's probably recorded on the camera. There was no lavalier hooked up to the goat or anything, making that bleeding noise. You know, it's just there, it's just the environment. That was on the camera. But let's look at the audio levels and the audio volume. One of the first things we're going to do, and this is past editing and past trimming, now we're into the audio phase of this, we're going to start to clean up the audio a little bit or work with the audio a little bit here in these channels. So in here, you will see an audio level meter showing you some volume. Now, the question will be, what is good volume? What should good volume be? Well, I used to work in an analog environment, and an old analog VU meter and an old analog mixer used to have a meter that looked like this. And the meter showed a level with a little needle that went from, say, -20 up to +3 or +5, etc. And the idea was that you want your volume kind of resting perfectly at 0. So when this needle went up as the volume went up, you wanted your level hitting here. But the truth was that sometimes it went a little bit above, sometimes it went a little bit below, and it kind of played back and forth between -3 and +3, and this was kind of your control of where you wanted to stay. And the way that I always thought about this, the way that I always considered this was like the speed limit, right? So your speed limit on your highway is maybe 65 miles an hour. You could go up to 70, you could go to 55, but you wanted to kind of ride not here and not go into here, 90 miles an hour, because you would get pulled over and probably get a ticket or something. But in audio world, if you go up to here and you peak, what's called peaking, this little light will come on, you'll get distortion. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is we want our levels to rock somewhere around here. And that was in an analog environment before the world of digital. And here's the problem. The trick was that most people who worked in audio didn't sit at 0. They went up to +3. Why? Because they knew they could get away with it. So it's like the highway. Like on the highway, everyone's supposed to drive 65 miles an hour, but everyone drives 70, right? Because they think, oh, no one's going to pull me over if I go 70. And people figured out that they weren't going to get distortion if they went up to +3. And because they wanted to be louder than everybody else, they said, let's go to +3. Well, in the world of digital, when the world of digital came by, this whole world changed. And the digital world said, hey, we're not going to tell you that you can go to +3 and not get distortion. We're going to put 0 over here. And 0 is no longer a kind of safety zone of where you should be. 0 is now going to be your maximum. That was the place at which point, hey, you're going to play these games, we're going to change the speed limit to 75 miles an hour because we know that everyone's driving 10 miles over the speed limit. And we know we're not going to pull you over if you drive 10 miles over the speed limit, so we're going to change the speed limit to 75 miles an hour. But guess what? Don't go above 75, because if you do, if you think, oh, well, I can go 75, that means I can go 80 now. No. The second you go above 75, we're going to pull you over. So now it changes into a whole new game. So the new volume here is maxing out at 0. 0 is the maximum level you can do. So people said, oh, well, if I'm going to go hit 0, if I hit anywhere near 0, I'm going to get distortion. So what should I do? Maybe I should go to, I don't know, -6 or -12 or -20. What's really nice about this is in terms of the audio levels, in terms of the audio volume, you can go a little bit lower because there's relatively little noise in digital audio. So you're not dealing with that noise floor as much as you were in analog, electrical audio. So you have some better control there. If you notice, for example, on, say, the Canon DSLR cameras, they have a little control that says, hey, you can go here from -40 up to 0. But they have a little notch here at -12. This is -12. And they say, hey, if you want to be safe, why don't you put your volumes here around -12? That's probably a good safe zone. So that if you did go above -12, you went up to -6, you know what? You're probably fine. You won't go anywhere near distortion. You'll be okay. Don't go anywhere near this 0. It's kind of like if you're driving the highway and you're like, oh, the highway says 65 miles an hour, but there's a cop behind me and I don't want to speed because I know if I go 66, he's like tailing me, just looking to pull me over. So here, in terms of the audio levels, we can look at the audio
by
levels.
Mike Cleary, the president of...
And we want to see where the median level is here.
Approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
Let's set our levels. Let's say, for example, our levels, we want our levels falling here at -12. And we can look here and
Approached by
say...
Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches.
Now, the good news is this: if this was recorded well, if the person who was on the camera or the person who was doing the audio recording on set or on location was recording the audio levels cleanly, this would be no problem whatsoever, and we wouldn't have to do anything to adjust this whatsoever. But maybe
by
we
Mike
do.
Cleary, the
So let's take a look here. So I want to go here. When we're on the timeline, we are on this timeline here. And this timeline here, we're just going to rename this and call this main sequence here, just to have this called main sequence. And here, main sequence is right here. It says main sequence there. Now, there's a control up here called the audio clip mixer. And the audio clip mixer, when we're on main sequence, is the audio clip mixer for main sequence. And you will see there's a little volume control, a little fader control for audio track 1, which is where our audio is here. Our track audio is on audio track 1 right here. And it's recording the audio for audio track 1. Perfect. Golden. Well, we can take this and we can bring this down. And if we drag this down to -6.4 decibels, we're going to bring this down to -6.4 decibels. It's going to make her sound
approached by
quieter.
Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach yoga.
And so this, Virginia, is now quieter. And we could bring her down even more, bring her down to -14. She's going to sound...
By Mike Cleary, the president of...
She's coming here at -24. Well, let's say we want to adjust her level so that her main volume is falling here at -12. So we're going to play this back, and we can actually do this while playing.
By Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis. I was approached by Mike Cleary, the president of...
So I'm going to put her at maybe -2. I can actually go down here and type -2 if I just want to click on it, if I'm just want to quickly click on it here. And type
I was
-2.
approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach.
So she's falling there right perfectly. I think perfectly she's falling at -2, which is giving me good levels here, and hitting here at -12. So maybe she was 2 decibels too loud. She was falling roughly around -10. I dropped her down 2 decibels, and now she's falling exactly perfectly
I
at
was
-12.
approached by Mike Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach yoga.
Now, the problem is that my here is a little bit louder than Virginia. So let's look at mine, bring down my let's say 3.4. Let's say
I teach
-3.4.
yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard.
No, that's a little bit quiet. Let's bring it up here to -2.7. Let's try -2.7.
Teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga.
I think that was actually still a little bit low. And I'm just kind of testing this out here.
Yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
Maybe she could actually be a little bit louder. We're going to go here and put her at minus 1.6.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga told me she had heard about.
Good. She's falling there at minus 12. I feel pretty good with there. So minus 1.6, maybe even minus, let's go minus 1.2. Let's just minus 1 point. Now I'm being super precise here because I want this to be perfect. What I want more than anything is I want Virginia and I don't want the volume to change. You ever listen to music sometimes on your radio and all of a sudden one song's really loud, the next song's really quiet, or you're watching a show and you're listening to the sound and all of a sudden the sound sounds really quiet and really low and you're adjusting the volume on your remote because you're like, man, I couldn't hear this. Wait, now this is too loud. Wait, I couldn't hear this. Wait, this is too loud. I don't want to have to do that. I want all of this to be consistent. So I look for a volume where this is consistent.
I was approached by Mike
this.
Cleary, the president of Oasis.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches yoga.
Now, you're going to have to deal with some issues because, for example, Mai here gets a little bit louder when she says, I teach yoga. She gets really kind of boisterous here, but then for the most part, she gets quieter. And that's why we have that minus 12 headroom. Because, yeah, sometimes when you're driving on the highway, you go down a hill, you put some too much speed on there, and maybe you get a little bit faster.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also.
So we want the main part of her consistent volume to go around minus 12. If she goes to minus 8 when we said minus 12, that's okay. She got a little bit fast, but she's not going anywhere near that 0. We want to keep her away from that 0. That's when you peak. That's when you clip. That's when you get distortion.
I teach yoga, and a friend of mine who also teaches.
Now, you'll notice here that when I go from Virginia to Mai, as I go to this next part here, I go to the next part of Virginia.
Told me she had heard about goat yoga. It was going on in Oregon.
And there was this big phenomenon.
Well, here on this part of Virginia, now it's back at 0. And we knew that we had Virginia at minus 2. So how come when I changed this to minus 2 and I went to this version of Virginia, this part of Virginia, it went back to 0? This volume is showing here Virginia here, and one's at minus 2, one's at 0. Well, that's because Adobe Premiere considers these to be separate clips on the timeline. This and this are a separate clip on the timeline. They're not part of the same clip, and it does not reflect that. So if I change it here, I also have to change it here. Now, there's a couple things I can do. One is I could have changed all these clips before I brought them down the timeline. So I could have went to interviews here, and if I go to Virginia interview here, and I clicked on Virginia interview, and if I went to Virginia interview, notice that when I go to the audio clip mixer, it doesn't say audio clip mixer for main sequence. It now just says audio clip mixer for Virginia. And I could have listened to Virginia, and I could have brought Virginia down to minus 2. And now, every time I bring Virginia down into the timeline, she's going to be minus 2 because she's been set up at minus 2 by default. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. I've already brought Virginia down into the timeline. She's already down the timeline. So the problem being is, even though this is looking at the original source level volume to bring it down to minus 2, which we know is the sweet spot for Virginia, I know that this is not going to fix what's already in the timeline. Changing the channels will fix what's in the timeline, but changing the source level, the volume here, won't do anything for us down in the timeline because it's already in the timeline. So now I have to go one by one and change all that in the timeline. So I have to find every piece of Virginia and take this piece of Virginia and put it minus 2, and then take this piece of Virginia and put it minus 2. Notice that when I'm clicked on the source clip of Virginia, the audio says, hey, do you want to look at the audio clip volume of Virginia? Sure. When I look at the main sequence, it switches to the main sequence, the 4 channels of audio that I have here on the audio clip mixer main sequence. So I have those controls there. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to have to go back through Virginia now. I should have done this before, but sometimes you get impatient. Sometimes you want to start working and you want to start throwing clips down the timeline, and you don't think to yourself, hey, do I really want to adjust the audio for all these clips before I bring it down the timeline? Yeah, you probably should, but you don't. Yeah, I should probably meal prep every Sunday before the week so that I have meals for every day in the upcoming week, but I don't bother because I'm impatient because I want to just eat what I want to eat when I get there, but it's probably a thing you should do. But now that you haven't, because you just didn't, you need to go back to each of these audio clips and adjust the volume here. So we're going to go to Virginia here. And again, we'll look at the audio clip mixer. And this won't take long. We'll go here and make this at -2. We'll go and find other parts of Virginia here. We'll go to, here's another part of Virginia here. And we can say this other part of Virginia here, this audio level can be at -2. And yeah, this is annoying, but who knows? Maybe she got louder in this part, and -2 throughout the whole thing didn't work for Virginia because maybe she got more excited as she went on. But you should probably look at each of these audio levels.
Big phenomenon in the West Coast with goats with yoga.
Holding triangle for one more breath.
Now, like I said, these clips here, these have stereophonic audio, so these are on the camera. So you'll see different levels.
Take a nice deep.
It's a little louder than the left channel and the right channel, but that might be because the person doing the yoga instruction is off to the left side, and you want to have that stereophonic environment.
Take a nice deep breath in.
Now, what do I want to do with this audio? Well, maybe I want this to be there, but maybe I want to just be a little bit lower in the background. So maybe we'll put this at, maybe we'll say -12. We'll make sure that this is at -18. If we want this to be fully heard,
One more breath.
it should be falling here at -12, or at least one of the channels should be falling at -12. But if we want to be lower, we could dump this down -6 here.
One more breath.
And now it's just there in the background. I don't know. Maybe you want this to be in the background. Maybe you want this in the foreground. If you want to be back where it normally was here at 0, you can actually hold in the Alt key, the Option key, and hit that, and we'll jump it back to 0. That's a quick little shortcut that you have at your disposal. You'll also notice that if we make these audio tracks a little bit bigger, you'll notice that there's a little line here. And this little line is actually, if you don't want to go up into this window because it's weird and it's scary, if you want to go to this little line here, you can actually grab these little lines and make them louder or quieter. So this line right here, we could bring this down, and you'll see as we bring this down, it'll say -3.2, -4, and that's actually reflecting what's going to happen in the volume over here. I just dumped this down to -12, and now it says -12 there. And so this is at -12. And same thing as if I go here and hit it here, Option click there, you're going to see this line will jump back up to the 0 point and hit here. Boom, and it moved that line back up to the 0 point, which is somewhere in the middle there, and it made those volume changes as needed. So let's look at a different project here. While we're here, we're going to save this, Command-S save. We're going to hit Command-Shift-W, and we're going to go into a project like Minority Male, for example. We're working with Minority Male before. We have this here. And let's look at this again with a different example. So we're going to look here and see Fidel. And as I play back Fidel here,
that is really geared toward,
you can see there are two different levels happening. That's a problem. So let's take a look. I know that Fidel had a lavalier microphone on him. And so Fidel here,
be a conference.
Well, let's see. The left channel is...
That is really geared toward exposing my...
Look at the right channel's volume, though. Look how small it is down here. It's compared to this one, it's way smaller. So here we might say, let's look at the right channel.
Conference is really geared toward...
Oh, that's super distant. Why do we even have that channel? That's just picking up kind of room noise. That's not worth it. So let's go back to Fidel. And we can go here to the interviews bin and go to Fidel. Thankfully, we have this organized. We're going to the interviews bin and say modify audio channels. And in this case, we're just going to use the left channel because that was the good channel that we had. So now you can see the audio levels are equal on both channels.
To be a conference that is really geared toward...
Fidel's coming through a little bit low. He's not coming through -12. And maybe we set this at -14. Whoever did this decides. And different companies, different places you'll work will decide on what the level should be. Even different streaming services, Netflix or Hulu or whatever, will tell you when you submit stuff to them, what they want their level to come in at. They'll say -14 or -18 sometimes. Or Netflix is really low, actually. But we're going to take Fidel here, and we're on the audio clip mixer, the main sequence. We're parked on Fidel. So that's important. Where we're parked, we are parked on Fidel. We're going to take Fidel and raise Fidel up to +3.4.
That is really geared toward exposing minority...
It's a little loud. Let's just go to +3. So we're going to go to +3.
Female students to different careers, professionals that work within the...
Now, one of the challenges you're going to run into is if I make Fidel louder and if there was noise in the environment, environmental noise, HVAC system running or air conditioning running, or he had a refrigerator in his office. That would be nice if I had a refrigerator in my office. If he had a refrigerator in his office, that noise too might come back in with the
to be
volume.
a conference.
This is why you want to record good volume on set or on location. You want to make sure your levels are good because you want to have a really low amount of noise
That is really geared
and a real
toward
clean
exposing.
signal. You don't want to, you don't want to do an interview in the steam tunnel or whatever, or in the boiler room, because you're going to have all that
To be a conference
heating systems and whatever else making all that rumbling noise.
that is really geared toward
So
exposing.
+3 is good for Fidel. Now if we go to Wayne here, okay, so this clip right here is the natural sound. So this is,
behaviors, and they're so far apart. They're so far apart that if those
and they're falling mostly -12, so I'm going to leave them alone. But let's look at Wayne here.
there's an opportunity to participate in an event like this, to bring these
So Wayne could come up a little bit here. And Wayne here, we're going to put him at +2. I also noticed that Wayne has 2 different channels. There was a handheld microphone interviewing Wayne, but also there was the on-camera mic. So again, if you listen to the left side of Wayne here, we can do the F key and look at the source audio here. If you listen to the left side of Wayne here,
opportunity to participate in
that sounds good. This, the right channel,
an event like this, which is a minority male initiative.
sounds like a, reverb chamber here. So let's look at Wayne and adjust Wayne. Right-click, modify audio channels. Let's use exclusively the left channel. And there's other ways you can do this. Rather than use a stereo clip, you could use 2 mono clips. Say, for example, you wanted to separate both the left channel and the right channel into 2 separate tracks. Then you would have volume control for each of them. I'll show you how that looks in a second. But now Wayne's back up here.
When there's an opportunity to participate in an event like this, to bring these young men together
And he's coming through pretty good.
for the purposes of encouraging
So we have those controls there. But I'm going to want to go to him. I'm going to want to go to Aaron. Aaron probably should need to be changed as well. You can probably change all of these to the left channel. Modify audio channels. Put them in the left channel.
We have a partnership with Brookdale, and what we're offering our students.
Now, Aaron's coming a little bit low. So now we want to look at Aaron and look at here on the sequence. Audio clip mixer. Make sure this says audio clip mixer main sequence here. And on the sequence here with Aaron, we want to say, let's boost up Aaron, maybe +3, +3.3.
We're offering our students the opportunity to come to Brookdale and then transfer.
He sounds good. He sounds great. Fantastic. All that's good there. So we want to go through every single clip. And I know this is difficult work. But you want this project to sound good. So you're going to take the effort to make sure this sounds clean and the audio levels are good. Yeah, you could have some other audio engineer do this for you, but you want to do this yourself and you want to have that control there. Okay, so as a next thing, as a third thing, a last thing here, we're going to go here and we're going to look at some other controls in here. So let's go to Command-Shift-W. Let's Command-Save. We're going to go back to Northlands. Command-Shift-W, we'll look at Northlands here. So I have this Northlands sequence. Actually, let me look at this sequence here. Let me go here to this guy right here. And so this is Northlands here, and Northlands has this music. Now, we had this music in the background, and we took this music and we brought it down to -14. We actually just took the fader and brought it down, or took the line, the volume string here, and brought this down.
As developer, creator, and artist behind Northland's American Model Train Museum, Bruce Williams has spent a lifetime working at what he loves.
All right, let's play a little bit. Let's do a little bit of play here. I want to do an idea here. So I have this sequence here built out like this.
As developer, creator, and artist behind Northland's American Model Train Museum, Bruce
What if I said, instead of the voiceover happening here, let's try a trick here. I'm going to look at video and audio 1 and audio 2 here, and I'm going to move these over. Now, I could grab all these and move these over. I find an easy way to do that is there's a key right here, a tool right here called the Track Select Forward. And if I grab this tool, it has these 2 little arrows that look like these 2 little arrows. If I grab this and click here, it grabs everything. And I'm going to take everything and I'm going to move it about 2 inches forward. Here to about, I don't know, like that's about 1 second, a couple frames in, that's there. Now I moved all that forward. I'm going to go back to the selection tool, and then back in the selection tool, I'm going to take the music and I'm going to bring this back. So I'm going to deselect everything and then just move the music back so it starts here. I want to have a little bit of a music fade up here before the voiceover starts. And I'll take this clip and I'll just trim this, extend this back to here. So now I have a little bit of a kind of music lead in.
As developer, creator.
I don't know, that's a little bit more fun there. A little bit of an idea. We could do that even more. Again, I'll track select forward, grab all these clips, Grab all these clips, move them all over. I'll go back to selection tool. I'll pull this back, pull this one clip back, and then I'll just trim this so it extends back on. I hope that makes sense.
As developer, create.
Now we have a little bit of place for an intro here. So, okay, thing we can do. We want to do an audio fade up here. We want to have the music fade up and fade up into the shot like so. Fantastic. Thing we can do. We can do an audio fade here. We could click here and go right to the beginning of this. And at the very beginning of this, if we're right here at the beginning of this, we could hit Command-Shift-D for dissolve. And it could do an audio fade. And that would be an audio fade that would sound like this. And we could actually grab that audio fade and extend it. And that'd be a way to do this. But let's try this a different way. Let's go here to this line right here. And this line right here will show you a volume control. And now this volume control is way down at -14. We could even bring it down even lower, -16. It's going to bring it down a little bit lower, and so it's going to come up here to -16. The reason it's at -16 right now is because we want it low enough that we can hear the voiceover over top of it.
As developer, creator, and artist behind Northland's American Model Train Museum, Bruce Williams has spent a lifetime working at what he...
That's great, but maybe here in the beginning, in this little introduction of this little train going by, maybe in the beginning here, we want this level to be louder, to be actual, -12 volume that we wanted here. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's control the volume integrally to the clip. Integrally? That's a made-up word. Integral to the... Yeah, something. Inside the clip. Yeah, inside the clip. Let's say it that way. All right. So I'm going to do a control here to do volume automation. And volume automation is the ability to control the volume within the clip at various points inside of the clip. Let me explain what that means. So I find the easiest way to do this, and there's a couple ways to do this, but if I go here to the track, if I hold down the command key, holding down the command or control on a PC, holding the command key, it will make a little dot. And this little dot right here, this guy right here that it made on there is a little volume control, a point, a keyframe if you will, a point at which the volume will change. So I can go here to the beginning of this, and I can hold down command, and let's say about 1 second in here. We'll just go to 1 second in. We'll zoom in a little bit so we can see this a little bit closer. At 1 second in, I'm going to hold down command and then hit command. It made my little dot. And at the beginning of this, I'm going to hit command again and make a little dot. And so I have a dot here and a dot here. And I'm going to take this dot and I'm going to lower this dot down to -999. Not even that low, maybe just -50. So now here, I have the volume here is at -50. Down here, which is going to be silent. But then it's going to watch the volume control will ramp up from -50 up to -16. But maybe I don't even want it to go that low. So I'm going to grab this dot right here and pull this dot up to -2. So now this is going to ramp up and get louder up to -2. I don't know what good volume would be. And now it's going to -2. And then here, I want it to play from here to here until it gets the voiceover at -2. So it's going to go low, up, and I'll make another keyframe, command click, and bring this one back up to -2 as well. Now, I'm not exactly at -2, I'm at -2.1, but if I park on this and type in -2, it'll adjust this one right there. So this one right here that I'm parked on was at -2.2. Sorry about that, -2. And so this one's at -2. Sorry, -2. This one's at -2 here. And then another keyframe over here is at -2 as well. Whoops, sorry. -2. And so this volume should maintain from here to here at this volume here, like so, to there. Excellent. So I have that there. Just double checking that I don't have any other additional keyframes in between there. Fantastic. Looks good to me. Works like a charm. And so now it's going to go low, -nothing, up to -2, play, and then go down to here. And I can see that that loud volume is playing at -12 because
As developer,
Now, if I want that to be lower as it comes in, I can actually just grab this point and bring it down more because there's no other keyframes. I can do a minus 18.5 here. Now it's going to come down lower.
as developer, create.
If I wanted that to be longer, I could actually change the distance between the keyframes and have a slower fade out. So if I drag this way, it's going to be a slower fade. It's going to go from -2 to -18 over this longer period of time.
As developer, creator, and artist behind Northland's American Model Train Museum.
And I can have those volume changes like that. And I could do this with interview clips. So back here, again, I'm going to hop back into another project here. Command-Shift-W. We're going to go back to Goat Yoga here. And in Goat Yoga, if I really wanted to, if Virginia got so over here, she gets a little bit louder.
Oasis. I teach yoga and
I could actually go to this track. I could say here, we'll zoom in really close. And we could say, I teach yoga. This is the I teach yoga part.
I teach yoga.
We could actually take this and say command click, and dump that down 2 decibels. And now it would be a little bit quiet.
I teach yoga and
it'd be, the volume would come up there. Do I need to do that? No. It's perfectly normal for a human being to have a normal span of getting louder and quieter in their interview or in their dialogue. They're gonna be more excited about certain things, and that's why I have that threshold of -12 to -8 to -16, somewhere in there. I can keep my speed limit somewhere around there in that volume. I don't need to adjust every single word to make sure that everything sounds exactly the same level. There are ways to do that with special effects and some compression, but I don't really need to go to that much trouble for this.
I teach yoga.
So I wouldn't really worry about that as a volume control. But I could do that inside of here.
I teach yoga
and I would have that volume control there. You will notice that the volume controls that I'm making in here or with the music, they're also in the effects controls. And so I see my levels here at -2.1, it's here. There's another display inside of here. So let's go back here. We'll save this. Let's go back to Minority Male or Anderson Lab 2 here. And so here we have this inside of here, and we're looking at this.
As developer, creator, and artist behind Northland's.
You can see here that if I go into the effects controls on this track here, you can see that I have volume controls. That's actually showing me the keyframes and what I'm doing with the keyframes. It goes from -50 to -2 or to wrong clip. -2, and then it goes here to -2, and then it dumps down to -18. So that's what the volume is doing. Those are the volume changes it's making in there. You can see that as a display. Let's do this one more time here with Minority Male. So we'll go here to Minority Male, and we'll look at this there. And we're going to add in some music that we didn't have before. So we'll go to here to Audio, and I have this music here, this sizzle music here that I can play inside of here. So let's grab the sizzle music. I'm going to patch the sizzle music down to track 2 here, and bring this to the beginning and say mark an in point, and we'll just go to the end of this and we'll mark an out point, so it's just over that portion from the beginning to the end. Do I want it over the beginning to the end? I don't really know, but we're going to use it anyway. Let's go to the audio, the sizzle music here. We'll double click, we'll open that up. Here's the sizzle music. I can bring that in and say, yeah, let's just overwrite that down onto there. It's asking about the sequence in and out points versus the, it says the source clip is shorter than the destination. Okay, that's a problem. So let's say I don't even want this for the whole thing. Let's say I only want this for a short section of this. This clip is only 30 seconds long. My sequence is now, I don't know, 1.5 minutes. I don't want all of that. And I actually don't want music underneath the whole thing. So let's go add the music to, like, say here, and we'll mark an out point there. That's only, what, that's 10 seconds. Oh, that's 10 seconds exactly. Look at that. So now I can say, overwrite that in there, and throw the music down there. So what do I want the music to do? Well, let's zoom in for a second. Let's say I want the music, and maybe I can even trim back the music a little bit. Just remove some of the music a little bit, and then just pull this back. And then just say, okay, I want the music here, command-click to fade up here, and command-click and fade down here. Now you can do this with the audio clip mixer and the controls inside the audio clip mixer to have that audio. This is audio track 2, so you see that audio track 2. That's That's coming through really loud, actually. So let's dump that music down overall, down to like -7 and -8. Yeah, that's coming through better. We definitely don't want to distort. And now here I can say command click and command click down to nothing and let this fade out. And now we can just go here and we'll trim this back. So now it's only giving me audio from here to here.
Okay, so the Minority Male Initiative is...
And what we could say is, we could say, hey, maybe I want to use this music somewhere else. During this section here where it's the live event, I'll take this music again and I can say, I can actually do this. I can hold in the Option key, the Alt key, and I can drag and make a duplicate. And now I can have a duplicate of the audio coming in here.
that they might be interested in.
Sometimes we have two.
Now that ends too soon, so I could actually probably drag this out. Now the audio here, it looks okay, except the audio parts end right here. So I'd have to take this and move this over and take this and whoops, sorry. Careful, undo. Move this over, getting a little bit crazy. And have my audio fade out kind of here. That still didn't reach the end of this. Let's go a little bit longer so it fades a little bit into wane. Here. I could also do that up here in the effects controls. I could actually just grab these audio volume keyframes and move them how I need to move them, earlier or later, so they can go to the end there. This volume seems like it's dipping down a little bit, so I want to make sure that's kind of even. You can almost see the line and see the line is pretty even across. And so now it's going to go full volume.
They might be interested in.
Sometimes we have two varying behaviors, and they're so far apart. They're so far apart that if those two worlds meet, there are disastrous results. And when there's an opportunity to participate.
So, first things I want to do, I want to make sure that all the audio volume through and throughout is even. I want to make sure that all the regular content volume is even. Then as a second control, we can go look at adjusting volume and adding music in. And I do like the idea of music being in here. I do want to have music in here. And so I want to make sure that I can bring the music in and out. Could I have just done an audio cross dissolve, Command-Shift-D, and done the audio dissolves there that way? Yeah, but I like this because I have really more specific controls of what I'm doing with the audio rather than just having the audio fade in or fade out. I can actually control this on a keyframe basis. Anyway, so that's some of the things I can do with the audio controls, and those are some of the audio features I have. I do have an audio track mixer as well. This would adjust the audio for the entire track. So Windows Audio Track Mixer. And this says, hey, this is the volume for the entire track. So if the entire dialogue track, say for example, we had this whole thing and we're doing it at -12, and we said, oh no, all this needs to be at -14. Well, there's a couple things I have. I could say, oh, well, I could take all of audio track 1 where everything was set to -12 and say, no, let's take this whole track down 2 decibels. And that would put it all at -14. So now everything that was at -12 is now happening at -14.
It's really geared toward...
I could bring this whole track down to -6. Now it's doing -12, -20, I don't know, something like that.
Exposing minority male students to different careers, professionals that work within those
And now
careers.
it's coming much lower there. Option click, I could print 0. And then I could actually have a mix control. This is the mix control for the whole volume of the entire thing. So now this is everything, the music and the dialogue. So I do have an audio track mixer that I can use there. In future lessons, we'll talk about using Essential Sound, which is a nice feature inside of Adobe Premiere. We can also talk about sending this out to Adobe Audition in future ideas of things we can do with audio as well. I think this will cover some basics of audio, but yeah, audio is one of those things that's really important. And if you're working on a project and it looks great and your visual effects are cool and all your things are cool and your interview and your content, your B-roll is amazing and it sounds like garbage, the project is garbage. It doesn't matter how good it looks. If it sounds like garbage, you got a garbage project, so you're kind of stuck with that. Okay, I hope that helps. We'll cover some new stuff in future lessons. I'm excited to get back into this. Awesome.